What's up, y'all? It's your girl, Typical Tat, a.k.a. Tatsua D, and
your girl, Vasilissa G. Your girl, yeah, the great one, Vasilissa G, a.k.a. Vasilissa G.
let it ride. Because we have a very special guest with us.
Yes, very special.
Can you please introduce yourself?
Yes.
Peace, everybody. My name is Bishop, but I also go by BW.
Okay.
It's been a while because we actually done a podcast with Bishop, and it's in my computer. It just won't let me watch it or upload it or do anything.
It's in my phone, and it won't let me do anything either. But I want to tell you, that was our very first video
podcast. Yes.
So he's really been here because you see all the decorations and the mic and all that. See, our original was like blank walls, and it was sitting on a book, right? The phone was sitting on a book, no mics, nothing. So he's been with us, rocking with us.
Yes. And we appreciate you taking your time off to come and do this podcast with us.
Yeah,
it means
absolutely.
a lot. It means a lot.
Absolutely.
Let's jump into it. Let's jump into it.
Well, first,
introduce
yourself, not just by name, but what do you do?
Yes.
Okay.
Let them know.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm currently in graduate school at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. I'm studying history. Particularly the history of how African Americans historicized Africa in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. I'm a teaching assistant, and I also participate in various educational endeavors for kids in the Urbana-Champaign community, from teaching kids about the socio-political history of the blues, about Black inventors, mentoring young Black males, whatever it is, you name it, anything that's fulfilling for me.
Yes, I love that. So that means that he is very much equipped, more than educated, to speak on this. Me and Tat, we just be talking our shit.
It's our opinion.
We actually have somebody.
But what's funny about our opinion, in
it's
fact,
very
is
true.
It's
like very true. Like, I mean, I didn't go to school for it, but I know what I'm saying.
He knows all the words to describe that.
Oh yeah, we talk with our feelings. So one of the things that I was seeing on social media was reverse racism. Do you think that it exists? Do you think that's a thing?
I believe that racism is a systemic and systematic phenomenon that can only be perpetuated on an institutional and political level. Black people or any people of color do not necessarily control any of the institutions here in the United States, at least not any of the institutions that are heavily impacting white Americans. And as a consequence, we cannot be racist or reverse racist.
And that's what I was literally telling people. Like, since high school, I would tell people, like, since Black people, basically since 9th grade, and people would look at me like, you're crazy. Like, and I had to understand, like, we don't control anything. We don't have any powers in hospitals. We don't have any grocery stores, bank. We don't have any control. And yes, we have these people and maybe in these political places. But what was that word you said? What was the word you said? Non-threatening Black people. We have these non-threatening Black people in these places, and like they're not helping us in any way, and we're still in the same predicament that we've been in for a really long time. So I don't believe that we can be racist. I don't believe that reverse racism is a thing.
It doesn't exist, or I mean, at least not to the same degree. If anybody wanted to make that argument, I don't personally believe that it exists. But I do remember having that conversation with you, and I said the same thing. Like, well, no, I said the opposite. I was like, you can be racist, because in my head, racism was not associated with the power that you held in these institutions. Racism simply meant one race thinking they're better than another race. In my head, the same way for like sexism, whatever gender you were, you just believed that you were better. But I never knew the definition of it to that extent, that it was about
the institution, that you have power.
Yes,
being able to call the cops and be like, this Black person is making me feel unsafe, and now that Black person's life is no longer here. Like, that's a power and a privilege that you have.
But I knew of that, but those were two different words for me. Like, I didn't keep
I always knew that. I'm not that smart, but I always knew that, and I don't know why.
I don't know, but I thought racism was specific, like an ism, like a belief.
Yeah.
Like, I just didn't think that it had anything to do with the power, but I know that was definitely a problem. It just didn't, that wasn't the title or the label I put on it. But I was always aware of that. Like I always agreed with you with this stuff, but the word was different.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I honestly think that more people would understand that if they took the time to study. This argument is not new.
No.
Matter of fact, a man who we know today as Kwame Ture, but was formerly known as Stokely Carmichael, paired up with a political scientist named Charles B. Hamilton in, I want to say 1967, and they created a book called Black Power. Now, beyond describing the ideology and the manifestations of Black Power, it's one of the first books that really talk about racism as a systemic phenomenon. And for people who are really trying to get a better understanding of why reverse racism does not really exist, I would definitely point them in the direction of that text as a starter one before.
This is perfect. I want to be just like you when I
know,
grow up.
You know who he reminds me of? And
Farrakhan.
I know. They're just making me smile from ear to ear, and I just can't help it. Like,
I've said this to him.
You just have this peaceful, calming, like, even if I wanted to be mad and Bishop was there, I would just be like, okay, Lisa, relax, conduct yourself.
Like, we're going to be calm in this podcast.
Relax yourself.
Yeah.
So, when that white girl or whoever... well, let me not say that. Let me say if a minority is being rude to you or disrespecting you, they're not being racist. They are being ugly. They are being mean. They can even be bullies, but reverse racism is not a thing.
No.
So y'all need to stop thinking that, oh, black people could be racist. I'm only going to speak for black people again. That's what I do because I'm black. I don't know about these other races, so I won't speak about those other races. You can't tell a black person that they are being racist towards you. Yes, they could be ugly. They could be nasty. They could bully you, but they cannot be racist because they do not hold the same power that you do in being able to end your life or take away your wealth or put you in the ghetto.
Prejudice. It's
yes.
them treating you off of that, if anything, but it wouldn't be... There's no, the same actions can be taken from a white person and, you know, it's just, there's different reactions. Yeah. So, yeah.
It's not racism.
Right.
So now we came to an agreement that was already an agreement.
I hope y'all also come to that agreement because I really feel like a lot of people don't have that understanding, and I don't understand why it's within the vocabulary, I mean, the definition, like, we don't have any power. And okay, can you talk about why black people might think we have this power? I mean, to them, they might see, we have Barack Obama, or we have these non-threatening black people within these high political places. Can you explain to them why, even though those things have happened, why we don't have any power?
Maybe it's because they have a fundamental misunderstanding of what power is. Maybe they look at a black person being elected to a certain political position or having a managerial role within a white business as a form of power. And maybe it's power relative to the person who is just an employee at that business, or relative to the person who is not in a political position. But in terms of having absolute power to fundamentally restructure the society or to discriminate against a group of people.
I know.
Yeah.
She loves the way he says society.
Oh, yeah.
Society.
Yeah, that's right. So like the ability to discriminate against a group of people and affect change in all these different ways, somebody like Barack Obama cannot do. Barack Obama, you know, if we look at his track record, his human rights violations were nearly as severe as many presidents that preceded him, right? Worse than a lot of presidents who preceded him. And although he was a black president, he was not black people's president.
Half black president. Okay, we're gonna get into that.
That's why I say
he's a biracial man. Give him the right title.
That's why I want to say it's like when they say the non-threatening black figure in those positions, they're malleable in the sense where you're the face of who we oppress, but we're oppressing through you. Yeah, but it's more acceptable because you look like who we want to keep oppressing.
Exactly. So, you know, that actually, interestingly enough, raises a question that a professor has asked me before. So if we look at it from that perspective of this person can be a vessel of these higher ups discriminatory practices against certain groups, in this case black. Are those people racist towards black people even though that they're black?
I think that's hatred. All skin folk,
Self-hate?
yeah, self-hate. All skin
Yeah.
folk and kin folk. I
Yeah.
feel like that's what it would be. Like, you just have hate for your people, you have hate for yourself, and you might not even be aware of that, or you might be aware of that, and you just don't care.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say, I wouldn't say racism, because the people that they are like hiding behind, like getting the residual power behind, if they were to turn tables,
Yeah.
they can use that racism towards that one person. So you're just a pawn in the game for the moment.
Right.
But you still can't exercise that same racism.
Right.
You're
That's
just
same. You don't have that power at
you
all.
don't have the power. Yeah, they just gave you a little bit. They're like, here,
Right.
Have these crumbs.
you know when you can share a life on Candy Crush.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I get that. So like just channels
Yeah,
for the
channels,
racism.
yeah.
Or as we say in our community, they cooning. They politically
real
cooning.
hard, real hard.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you guys want to add before we move on?
Oh, you got all the
Dang, we kind of like talked about the second thing, about how racism is not the same as people bullying you. It's not the same as being people being nasty towards you, and people when something happens to them, people take it hard. I mean, yeah, because something is happening to you, so you of course you're gonna feel more than everybody else. But at the end of it, it's not racism. You know, your life was not on the line. Your family or people around you life was on the line, so it's not racism. And I'm sorry something bad happened to you, but you can't compare it for it to be, you know, oh, it's because of racism or you're a racist person. And do you think that black people have not necessarily the right, I don't have the right word, but to be hateful?
I think we can understand where the hatred comes from, right? Like we know that it comes from centuries of oppression and discrimination. Am I saying that it's right, quote unquote? No, not necessarily, but I think we can understand why there's hatred in their hearts towards white people, towards the system, etc. And I think it's on us to try to channel that hatred into some form of action. Like, you know, going back to the question of power, there's a professor at, I think he's at Morgan State, named Dr. Jared Ball. And I was looking at a podcast he did recently. And he's a person who puts forth this idea that buying black power or is a myth, right? He has a whole book on that, and you know he's had multiple discussions on it if you wanted to look it up and find it. But in this podcast that I saw, he mentioned that although black buying power is a myth, black people do wield some power, and the power comes out in our grassroots level organizing, right? And bringing together our communities, politically mobilizing them towards varying goals, and striking back at the system, right? That's where our power comes from. It comes from our numbers. It comes from channeling that hatred or discontent into productive forms of action, and eventually, you know, turning the system over on its head one day.
Dang. So we don't have any powers. Like, I mean, I already knew that, but we don't have. Basically, we don't have any power. Like, even our. So he's saying our money is what we have, like how we use our money, but
how to retaliate.
Right. Well, okay. So just to like demystify that notion of black buying power as a myth, essentially what he's saying is that oftentimes when people talk about black buying power, they always say something like, "Oh, black people last year had like $1 trillion spending power," or something like that. But if we look at data and statistics, individual black people do not possess $1 trillion worth of money, right? That's just money that they're spending. But power, at least in economic terms, is typically manifested in wealth, right? Ownership. So not just owning businesses, right? But having assets, real estate, all these things. And as a consequence of all these various forms and systems of discrimination, from chattel slavery to debt peonage and sharecropping and Jim Crow, redlining. All of these things have occurred throughout the history of this country. We're significantly disadvantaged compared to our white counterparts on most economic statistics, all right? And as a consequence, we don't necessarily wield a lot of economic power in this country, even with businesses that we create. And I'm not dissuading people from creating their own businesses or for us to buy from Black-owned businesses. Like, I always try to buy from Black-owned businesses. But if we look at data on that, even dating back to periods where we see
depressing, Christoph.
no,
make me cry.
no, like I'm gonna circle back around.
Yeah, but this is something we need to hear.
Yeah. So like, even if we look at statistics from like the early 20th century, where you see like Black Wall Street, and we think about the Greenwood neighborhood in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but we saw neighborhoods like that all throughout the country. But oftentimes with the businesses that they owned, they only generated enough income / wealth to maybe employ 1 or 2 Black people, typically themselves. So it's not like they were creating a whole lot of job opportunities for the community, right? And again, it's not even necessarily a consequence of them being malicious, right, and not wanting to create those opportunities for the community, but that is just the financial reality for a lot of us back then and now. Same thing now. A lot of the businesses that we own only employ 1 or 2 people, and typically a lot of them are self-employed, right? The people running it are the ones who are advertising it, all of those things. So, one looking at it from the job creation perspective, it fails there. And again, these are not typically like multinational corporations either, right? So they're not, generating the same amount of wealth as Amazon or Tesla or Walmart, Target, all of these things, right? A lot of them are locally based businesses. Even when you're talking about like the Black middle class, the Black middle class back then and in the Black middle class now, again, they're not necessarily generating enough wealth to significantly move the position of our people economically in this country. Back then, a lot of the Black middle class were the doctors, the lawyers, the insurance company owners, etc. Right? And they were providing services.
Are we ever gonna win this show?
Well, no, I'm getting to it, right? So they were providing goods and services to people in their communities, although they're not generating wealth, right? Now the Black middle class, a lot of us are employed by corporations or the academy, which is very much operating like a corporation at this day and age, right? But the fine line, which I'm getting to now, there's optimism. The fine line in all of that is that, again, I think is a testament to the spirit of our people and how even in the midst of centuries long of oppression, we have still found a way to organize ourselves and create businesses, however successful they were or however much they were operating on par with our white counterparts, right? And we were creating a sense of community, right? I talked about Jared Ball saying that we do have a form of power, grassroots level organizing, right? That's an important point to mention, right? I don't think that the country would have come to the point that it's at right now had it not been for the efforts of Black people who have constantly struggled for centuries, right? Struggling from the time of chattel slavery and different forms of resistance, rather in the form of absconding or running away as we understand it, or you're poisoning their owners or slowing the work rate, whatever it is, right? And when the Civil War came around, what did we do? We took advantage of that opportunity, and we flipped a conflict that was happening between northern capitalists and southern planters, and we turned that into a struggle for Black people's freedom in this country, right? Which is a testament to our power. Then, as we go on, we have the Civil Rights Movement, we have the Black Power Movement, et cetera, and both of those have left a long-lasting impression on this society, both in the form of policy and in national conscience, right? I came in here with a dashiki on. I see a lot of sisters with natural hair. And not that natural hair is a testament to consciousness or anything, but the fact
bringing
that
it back to our roots and
right.
like where
Right.
we came from.
Right, and the fact that people are more willing to embrace that part of themselves versus back then we allowed that nappy headed shit. You better get that permed or whatever it is, or even with men, like the whole respectability politics thing. You know, that's in throughout the community. The men, we have to dress a particular way too, or you want to keep your hair cut really low. All these things, right? All of these movements have changed our attitudes. And have fundamentally changed the country politically and socially, right? So now what we have to do is channel the spirit and the courage of our ancestors and elders who are still among us today. And we have to study the problems that are unique to this generation, just as they did. And we have to organize around that, right? We have to create political organizations, right? We need to make sure that we win the battle against DeSantis, right? And all the bans that he is putting on African American studies programs here, or people discussing things like diversity and inclusion, right? That's a battle that's being fought on this front here in this state, right? And all throughout the country. Right, we really just need to sit down and research those issues and try to find ways to combat them, right? And again, the past have shown us that we do have the power to change things. So we just have to figure out how we can do it now.
Oh, this is not what I was expecting. This is like...
It's like I see that. It's just the not to take away from the fact that there's growth. That's to be grateful for, that there's growth. But it's in...
like baby steps.
Yes.
Like baby steps. And that was like my biggest thing, like with people, some of the people I used to hang around with, like, oh, the fact that you can sit next to Billy and Susan does not mean that we've made it.
No,
we have so much more to fight for.
And the fact that was even a battle.
Why y'all want to sit next to them so bad? Like, there's just so much more. And then I don't know. I feel like within our community, we don't see the end goal. Like, we don't see, we want to build generational wealth. We want to have our own community. We want to have our own hospitals, our own banks, our own schools. We don't see the end game as being that. Like, if I'm comfortable, I'm good. I don't really care what's going on around me. And other groups, they don't think like that. They don't move like that.
It's sort of like getting stuck on the hamster wheel, and you just like keep going.
Yeah, this is gonna be us. Is this it for? I mean, I guess we can.
No, I have hope, right? Because again, things have changed in the past.
I'm losing hope.
Don't lose hope. Don't lose hope.
Yeah, things have changed in the past, and it has been at a very slow pace. And a lot of it has been more reform than it has been revolution. But I think we need to start turning our sights towards revolution and maybe rejecting approaches that proved to not work in the past, too, right? I mean, fundamentally, a lot of people say that the source is capitalism or imperialism, which keeps us disadvantaged, right? It keeps other people advantaged, right? Certain people can be billionaires. 1% of the people living in this country having most of the wealth, or like 90% of the wealth. I hear the statistic.
It just sits in the bank,
Yeah.
and people die of starvation.
Yes.
Right. And we're taught to idolize those people, right? We're not taught to question whether or not it's okay for one person to have all that wealth while simultaneously denying their workers living wages and living conditions, right? So I think, part of it is a change in mentality, and I think part of it is also a change of approach. I think I'm starting to see certain differences, right? I don't know if it's culminated into a full-blown movement quite yet, but perhaps some of these political decisions that are coming out, both within this past year and in the coming years, will push us over the edge, and something big could happen. I don't know when or what it'll look like, or who will be leading the charge.
Are we in the front line?
But are we going to be alive for that? I don't know if we are, bro.
I think we'll be alive for a change, right? Our parents were alive for multiple changes. We've been alive for certain changes, and I think there's more to come.
Obama as the president. I remember people went crazy for that. That was the change that we saw.
That was the change. Be the change.
Yeah.
And I mean, although that didn't have a whole lot of
They didn't have any
material,
like,
yeah,
yeah.
like material benefits or produce a lot of material changes. I think it
The
did produce a lot. Yeah,
representation, the
it produced a lot of
representation, yeah.
yeah mental changes, right? I think that was important for a lot of us to see on the screen
Yes,
at a young
yes, I would say
age.
that.
Yeah.
And I would say visual representation, even if it seems small to other people, but just being more inclusive on television shows, movies, and things of that nature. Now you have younger black children growing up and seeing themselves
Yeah.
in roles that not, or like even the Barbie dolls, like how you said, like
Yeah.
I'm not saying that solves problems, but it does change
But you know what
their
does? The Pepsi. Get a Pepsi and I'll change a lot of stuff.
change
That's
your
right.
life.
That's right.
Mm-mm. But I don't know. I was gonna bring something up that we talked about yesterday.
Oh, privilege. Yeah, I was gonna bring that up too, but
okay,
I
okay.
don't know how. Are we good on time?
Okay.
Okay, so yesterday I had texted Tatsuya. I blank people. Okay, I have a distaste for non-black people. I'll say that. I won't say which group I have distaste for. I have a distaste for them because I am in a way jealous of the privilege they hold that they don't even see. And we've had these conversations where white people, they're like, "Oh, I don't have privilege. I had to suffer just like everybody else." And I'm not saying that you didn't have to suffer, but we're saying when it comes to me and you are able to access, spaces that I might not be able to access, and that within itself is a privilege. So I went to this shoe place because I'm looking for some new running shoes, and there's this guy who works there, and there's another lady who she came in to look for some shoes, and she is like a neurosurgeon at Mayo, and the guy's dad also like works with Mayo, like he sets up things for Mayo and things like that, and he also works at the shoe store and with his dad, like his dad has employed him, so already like your resume is better. And then he was talking about all the doctors that he knows at Mayo, and the lady was like, "Yeah, I also work with that doctor." So it's just like those connections that you're making already. Like a lot of us, we don't have the access to just meet someone who can put us in those spaces. Your dad, he's done a great job. He's done what every parents want to do: expose their kids to people within certain establishment. So he did what he's supposed to do. But black people, because we had nothing, we have nothing, there's no way for us to put our kids in certain places where they can get those exposure. So you have privilege, but if you tell somebody who's non-black that's a privilege,
they'll see it. I feel like most of the answers they'll try to give you a remedy is, well, just network. But it's similar to...
Do you know how hard that is?
Yes, it's similar
My anxiety.
to, like, I have Metro PCS, and you have... so it's not shots at that, but the network, my ability to expand is a little bit less than yours. Not saying that I won't find myself in your space maybe one day, but... not every day like you. So that does cause some type of limitations. And another thing that I would say that non-black people will do when you do bring up privilege is this constant comparison to human life, things in human life. Like as a woman, a white woman or a black woman, yes, you experience cramps on periods. Or as a white woman or white man or black woman or black man, you have bills to pay and you get taxes. I understand life sucks, right? What you're trying to do is compare something that you don't have. You are comparing your problems to my problems, but I have that and some. Yeah. And the and some can't be compared because you don't have that. So it's I don't know.
Yeah, I left there with a very distasteful taste, and I'm happy for that young man because his dad is doing what what I would do if I had kids, put them in these different places, but it's just like you don't even see how good you have it. And even if one day you want to walk away from that, you've made these connections already where people will probably even vouch for you. Oh, Sam's kid? Oh yeah, I know him. He's a good kid. Like, just give him a job. Unlike us, we have to make those connections for ourselves. And it could be very, very hard, especially now when we talk about people with anxiety and like not being able to communicate. I'm not good at communicating with people. Like, I have like social anxiety, but I'm supposed to put myself out there. How am I supposed to do both of those stuff? y'all gotta answer. Y'all gotta a
No,
remedy for that.
It's a lot because even if you fix even if you were to work on that social anxiety, you still have the plight. Like
Yeah.
there's no advice other than channel that. You have to channel. Like that's the only advice.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate, right? Because while we're working towards the promised land, right, we have to still navigate the damned land. We'll call it the damned land, right? So, even with me operating in spaces where I'm looking for job opportunities or quote unquote networking, as people say, oftentimes I have to tone down certain assets myself to be more quote unquote acceptable.
That.
Yeah, it's definitely not right by any means, right? That definitely needs to change.
Because you're amazing, Bishop. So I don't want you to tone down. I gotta tone down sometimes, but not you.
You don't need to. You're at the
You're already
perfect
toned
tone.
down. What more you want me to tone?
Well, like tone down in a sense. Like for example, I can't go to a networking event wearing a dashiki.
Right. No, there's no. I understand fully what you mean by toning down. And I don't, in any aspect, there's nothing you could say that's going to justify why that needs to be done. I understand fully why you do it, but it's
not right.
It's not right. Because for non-black people or non-minorities, what exactly would they tone down?
Nothing. They don't have to tone down anything.
You're not being inclusive now.
No, like I think this country, the Western Hemisphere, whatever it is, it braces them for who they are. Not even just the Western Hemisphere, even places in the quote unquote Eastern Hemisphere.
Yes,
that
glorify.
It's the whole world.
Yes.
It's the whole world. Because even back home, like you imitating them it will get you further away. Being like them, straightening your hair, lightening your skin, talking like them. If you speaking their language, people will think you're somebody.
Yes. Every space is your space. There's a lot of places, different countries where there's text that is going to be translated into English for the convenience of you.
Yeah.
But when someone visits or comes here, speak English. Like, you don't understand how the world is almost
your safe space
shaped around your existence and your comfortability at the expense of everyone else who makes up the world around you.
But they don't have any privileges.
No,
they don't. Don't tell them that. They don't
I
have
worked
no
hard
privileges.
to get here.
You know how many countries we had to colonize?
Do you know how many months I was in my mom's womb? Yeah, I fought for this.
Yeah, don't even play with that.
Yeah.
My folks came from Ireland. They had to pull themselves up by the bootstraps when they got here.
But why can't they just acknowledge that it's not the same? You went through something. I went through something. This is not a struggle Olympic. We both went through something, but it's not the same. And I'm okay with understanding that it's not the same.
I don't know if I think a good bit of them.
I don't think any of them.
A good bit of them.
I don't believe in
are
allies.
blind. A good bit of them are blind to it. They're blind to it. And then another section of them, none of these sections are good, but another section of them is aware, but for me to talk about it and admit to it would mean that now I can't live the good life I'm living. So let me just, because if I turn off the TV,
evil,
all the struggle's done.
No evil.
Yeah.
So you think we got allies out here? Bishop, I want you in the hot seat because I don't believe we have allies, and I also don't believe that we should. I've had this argument with a lot of people, and they say, "Oh, we need somebody in their community to come and speak out for us." Do you believe in that? Because I think that the water gets murky in the fact of then we start idolizing them. Oh, look at this non-black person who came and they spoke out for us. They did this and this, and now they're our Jesus. Now we got another picture of Jesus up in the wall. Like, it doesn't make sense to me at all. And I feel like we've done it time and time and time, that we've shown that we could do it on our own, but they just won't allow us to get to a certain point until they're like, oh, they're doing too much now. Let's tear them down. So what are your thoughts?
It depends on the terms of the allyship, right? Because, and as a consequence of Western hegemony or white supremacy, allyship with white people, white organizations, communities is always so complex. Because there will
Or
always
just any, not just
Yeah.
white people. Put all them in there.
yeah, for sure. There will always be a tendency for that particular group, individual, organizations, etc's goals and perspectives to be the dominant voice and perspective in the struggle, right? If the terms of the allyship are built on me still being able to pursue self-determination, determine my own goals in the future that I want, and being able to advocate for myself, while you just kind of lend support to that in a way, then I can agree with that form of allyship. But if the allyship is you come in my organization and you're also going to be making critical decisions in the actions that we're making, et cetera, particularly as it concerns issues that are impacting Black people, right? Then that is an issue. I mean, but if let's just say though, I have an organization that's, I don't know, class based, right? That might be a little different, right? I might be more willing to work with white people in that kind of space. But if I'm working in a space that's dealing with Pan-Africanism or Black nationalism,
I better
right?
not see you, Bishop.
yeah.
I better not see you.
You wouldn't.
I better not see you.
For what he's saying, you could do the same, like the non-threatening white person. Yes, you are going to speak to people who are that look like you, but you're not going to come up with our bullet points of what we need to discuss, because we know that very well.
Yeah.
They might listen to you. We don't need you, but you could be something that we can use, someone we can use.
Yeah.
I don't even want that, because I'm afraid, and I've seen it. They become our Jesus. Like
No. That's what I'm saying. You don't give them the power to become that. You're just our spokesperson.
Yeah, but I feel like
you're a messenger.
It's not them who say I'm gonna be your Jesus. It's the Black people who start idolizing them.
But how do you idolize someone you taught what to say?
I don't know, but it's happened, and it happens time after time. It's just like how you have these white girls reciting these rap verse back to back, and then now it's just like, what about all these other Black people who know the song back to back, and they get the praises because there are these non-Black people who know how to rap a verse.
I don't know. I don't think that we would idolize them to that point where that girl who was like drunk.
I mean, me and you aren't. But there's enough people out there who would give them the power, or who put them in the pedestal where now they feel like, oh shit, I could do something with this. And that's how we have the Whoa Vicky, the babies, or whatever they're called. And that's how we get them, because enough Black people have given them the A-OK, like, yeah, no, you're good. And I don't believe that. But I do want to say, you've seen Black Panther 2. Do you feel like it's the same thing, like, with their allyship? Because I really feel like that nigga should have died. And I'm sorry, he should have fucking died. Kill, destroy, eliminate from this earth, okay? Because if it was the other way around, we would have... the whole kingdom is dead. Who's ruling? Who's ruling Wakanda? Nobody. Mama's dead, sister's dead, brother's dead.
You heard me in the theater.
Everybody is dead.
I literally yelled it in the theater.
Everybody is dead. Okay, Lupita, hide the baby. Hide the baby, because they're coming for him next. Seriously.
No, that's what it is, though.
Well, I mean, in no universe, in no multiverse, should we be trying to form allyships with the FBI or the CIA, organizations that have historically worked to dismantle Black communities, Black organizations, and Black liberation movements, and are still working.
Who needed to die,
right? Who are still working today to do that, right? Assata Shakur is still on the FBI's most wanted list, right? You got this whole concept of the Black identity extremists, right, targeting people who are very vocal about their Black nationalist, Black radical stances, right, being targeted by the FBI. I think we even saw a case just a couple months ago with a Florida-based organization. I'm forgetting the name of it. Their leader is a man named Omali Yeshitela. They raided the headquarters of this organization, like the FBI, police, etc., right, because they were accused of conspiring with Russia and creating propaganda in their conflict with Ukraine, and very unfounded perspective held by a lot of the higher ups in this country's political apparatus. So like they're still employing those tactics.
Have they raided like any
Child, no. Don't
like
even
the
waste.
Ku
Don't
Klux
even waste
Klan,
your
like,
breath.
type of
No.
things
Don't
that-
even waste
No.
your
So
breath.
this is not about the people; it's about black
don't
people.
even waste
Okay.
your breath. Don't even.
No, I
waste
just thought I
It's
was
like how
thinking-
yesterday
I was just thinking
I was on
out
the
loud.
phone with you for like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Yesterday I was at Target. And I parked because I was gonna eat my sandwich, and I was gonna park next to a tree, and then I'm like, is that a gun next to the tree? I'm not sure if it's a real gun or a fake gun, so I called the cops. I'm just like, I don't want nobody to pick it up, and then now someone in Roosevelt got shot. I'm like, damn, I know what the gun is. So I was like, okay, let me call the cops and have them come here. I guess that was like it's a non-emergency, but I feel like, yes, it's a non-emergency, but that shit could escalate really quick. Because if somebody comes up and picks us up, I'm not fighting nobody.
Oh.
I'm not stopping nobody.
Get and drive.
I'm not doing nothing. And they literally took like 45 minutes to come and for someone to come and get this. I don't know if it was a real gun or not. Like, but still, like, y'all took 45 minutes. Something could have happened. That was too much time. Like, there was no
Pep in the step.
yeah, there was no urgency for anybody's safety. Like, this is in the public area.
Is there a place for police officers? What is their function? What's their function in this society? Like, do we need police? That's the question.
I think we do. I think, well, maybe, I don't, we can call them whatever we want. We can call them rangers, police, but we do need an authority that can come in and be the middleman when things get.
I don't even think you need the badge and the uniform. I think what you need is just simply the skill and someone designated for that.
Yeah.
If you put so much power within the position, these people are exercising that power when it's not needed.
Yeah.
But if someone has the skill and that's what they do whenever they are called to do it, then that makes a difference. Like, I think in New Zealand, I hope I'm getting this right. I watched the movie on Netflix. Anyways, but in New Zealand, everybody functions in the community. They have different roles that they all play. So the person who's your local gardener, when there's a fire, they put that hat on and everybody kind of plays a role, and it's the incentive is not money.
Yeah, it's
just
like
simply the well-being of your neighbor.
Yeah, because you take care of me, I take care of you, and we have a flourishing community. Not, I got $5.9 billion in my bank account, and I'm flying out the first time I see an issue.
So it's definitely a priority thing. As humans, we should prioritize the person who's next to us, their well-being. But now, like, it's more, especially here, it's targeted towards money. Yeah. Because we have patients. Actually, I'm not going to say. There's facilities that offer these.
Just say the healthcare system.
Someone could be bleeding out,
but because they don't have the
you said you're with United, or did you
insurance.
say is that Florida? Okay, let's see if you're covered by us. You might not be in round. Please don't bleed on the floor. Like, are y'all good? Y'all got priorities set right, or money?
If you look at, if you look at Africa, if you even look in the islands, like, we knew how to live within communities, and we only learned how not to live in community when the colonizer came in and they switched the mindset to, like, okay, instead of it being us, it's me. What can I get? What can I gain? And they switched it. And that's why capitalism works so well, because everybody here, like, white people are the real hustler. Like, they're the real, like, I'm gonna get my money, get my bag, and I'm a dib. Like, they started that culture. Like, they have that mindset where they don't care what happens to the next person. As long as I'm good, I don't care what happens to y'all. While we're in the community base. And that's why I sat there for almost 45 minutes waiting for that police officer to get that gun, because I'm just like, it might not be me, but it could be somebody's aunt, mother, child, dad. And I don't want that in my conscience.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. And I had to stay on the phone with her because I was like, people switch up stories. They would have been like, how did you know this gun was here? Really?
You gonna get the gun or what?
What are you gonna do?
Yeah. I'm gonna ask do you have anything to say, Bishop, before I give y'all my bonus questions?
The bonus
question.
Oh, no. I'm excited for these bonus questions.
Okay. Ooh. So we know that we see this on Instagram. where we have these ambiguous people or people who you laughing already? Do you know what I'm gonna say?
I feel like I do, but
I
let me
think
not.
I do now.
Oh yeah,
But when you first said, I'm like, I don't know what.
yeah. I
But now
tell you, we
I
talk about
think
it all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're like fighting hard, like I'm black, I'm black, I'm black. How far back should we go? I'm saying 2 generations. If your grandma was not black, I'm so sorry. I think we should start to distinguish. I have black in me versus I am black. We should make those distinguish, because someone who has black in them but don't look black and wants to speak for the community that they might be in or not,
Yeah.
and that affects me, I don't appreciate that.
I think it changes. I think, okay, so I'm allergic to bananas and I want regular bread. This is fake. All of this is fake. But I want bread. And somebody's like, oh, this is bread. And I eat it, but it's banana bread. You left out vital information. And I don't walk around with my EpiPen and now it's you selling bread and my dead body. So, like, what are we doing?
Damn, that was dark real quick.
Sorry.
That was dark.
That was the very first thing that popped in my head.
So 2 generation. How far back y'all want to go? Y'all want to take
First
this? Damn.
I actually have a little bit of a different perspective on this.
Okay.
So blackness, whiteness, Latinx, etc. All of these are.
Wait, but what does the X stand for? Because I was gonna.
It's just neutral. It's like gender neutral. So, because typically you refer to somebody as Latino or Latina, and Latino referring to male, Latino referring to female.
They didn't know that, because why would they say Latinx then if you know that if you?
So it's because you don't want to put you don't want to assume a gender.
But I feel like I hear people who know what their gender is say that they're Latinx.
No, but if I was referring to like if I was talking about a group of what I view as Latin women, instead of saying Latina and assuming that they're all women, I would say Latin.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just a more inclusive term.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just a more
now I'm
inclusive term.
educated.
So now I am too, because that's not what I was about to say.
Right.
I did, but I was getting it from another video. I mean, know what you were saying.
For sure. So all of these are social identities, right? There's a biological element there, but it's not all biology. It's not all culture, even though culture does play, I'd probably say, the most significant role. Yeah. Right? So even when we talk about the 1 drop rule, right? That was, people think that, I think some people kind of refer to that as a means of saying like, oh, this is how they were trying to erase black identity. That's not true. I think the 1 drop rule was created because they wanted to deny as many non-white people access to the wealth and resources in this country as they possibly could.
Yes.
And if I could deny it to people who literally just have a black grandfather, I'll do that. And I think as a consequence of that policy, as a consequence of there was like a Virginia law passed in the 1660s that passed on a slave identity, or not slave identity, but a slave status through the mother instead of the father, because of the amount of sexual assault that was occurring in enslaved communities committed by owners and overseers, right? This is the way that they can maintain some sort of system of bondage that went from child to child.
Disgusting. Oh my gosh.
So what has that created, right? So you have some people who are very quote unquote racially ambiguous, who might just have a black grandfather, or what would be the equivalent of a black grandfather if we were to do a DNA test. But as a consequence of these policies that cemented black identity, or African American identity in particular, right? Because the way that racial laws work in other places are a little different. That cemented African American identity, right? You have had people in our history who were racially ambiguous, biracial, octoroons, whatever it is, right? Who have played very critical roles in our social movements.
Yeah.
And we can Frederick Douglass was half white. Booker T. Washington was probably half white. Malcolm X's mother was half white. Adam Clayton Powell Jr., I don't know if you all know who he is, but he was a congressman in New York City for many years, who advocated for black workers' rights, integration, all of these things. Both his parents were of mixed heritage, but if you look at a photo of him, you probably wouldn't be able to tell that he was black. He looked very white. He could have passed, is what we say, right? But he played a very critical role in social movements, right? And he was
Can I say something
well
real
liked by
quick?
Malcolm X, etc. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. The reason why I say what I'm saying, I feel like back in those days we had there was a sense of like a community, but now we have these people who are ambiguous, or they're half or one quarter. They don't even want to be black unless it's an
trendy.
advantage for them. So it's like, why are we still putting these people and labeling them as black and bringing them in their community when they don't want anything to do with our community?
I think they should say it. You can say you have black within you, but to identify solely with that and ignore the part that you want just out of the spotlight for this moment, that's detrimental. So the same way you can find someone who they're black, they look black, and then you say, oh, well, my mom's white, but they are very black presenting. If he or she were to walk into a white space and say, but I'm white, they're gonna be like, no, you're not. And he shows his mom, and he's like, no, this is my mom. Oh, that's your mom. Oh, welcome it. No, it's not gonna be like that.
Because I don't want to sound like I don't want them in our community. Like, those are my brothers and sisters. I do, but I just see, especially now within our time with the mixed baby, it's just like they don't want to even be acknowledged and be seen with us unless it's gonna benefit them. So it's like, so why do we keep giving them a helping hand when they keep hitting us? And that's why I'm like, we have to define that. Maybe not now, but I feel like that's something that we have to define. And either you have to be in or you're out. You can't keep jumping, even though in a sense you can, because you are both, but it hurts us, the black community, more than it hurts the white people. Don't give a fuck. They don't care. But it hurts our community more.
I just feel like you should just be upfront with what it is, and if you don't want to divulge or like give too much information, just simply say biracial. Don't identify with, even if you say I identify mostly with my black side of my family or my white side of the family, at least say biracial.
And I think that, like I mentioned earlier, I think that's why that cultural component is so important. Because again, I do think there have been people who are of mixed race or who are racially ambiguous, who have self-identified as black or African American when it was beneficial, but weren't willing to inherit the struggle and all the responsibilities that come along with being black, and that is an issue. Even though, but there also have been people who are biracial or racially ambiguous or have some black down the line who have been willing to take up that mantle. So I think that definitely speaks to the points that you're all making about you have to like say it out the get-go. And also like a point I want to make too, for my brothers and sisters out there who are biracial or multi-race. And when I say biracial, I'm not even just talking just black and white, black and Asian.
I hope they know that.
Whatever it is, right? I think it's also possible to say like I am black, but I also do identify with my Chinese blood or my Japanese blood or my French blood, whatever it is, you know what I'm saying?
Wrong with
that,
no.
like just because you embrace an African American identity doesn't necessarily mean you have to ignore other parts of your identity as well, right? I mean, and that even goes for our brothers and sisters, like you know, in your cases, people who are descendants of black people who come from other places outside of the United States, right? They can be black, African American, while still simultaneously embracing their cultural heritage.
Wait, so you think I'm black? I think I'm black, and people. I know I'm black. No, in the sense of like people like, oh, you can't say you're black because you're not. I'm not Black American, but I think I am black. I'm Black American. I'm still American. It hurts me sometimes. Because if I went back home, they'll be like, "You're not one of us, really."
I know that's what.
So I'm stuck with y'all. Y'all stuck with me.
That is so painful. That's why I say like the privilege. Just continue, because it's a broken record, honestly.
Yeah, because ultimately what's going to happen is that you come into this country and eventually you are going to have some of the experiences that African Americans who are descendants of people who were enslaved have. Especially if you have children who are born here and they're socialized around other African American children. A police officer ain't gonna go up to them on the street and say, "Oh, he from Nigeria. Don't mess with him."
Yeah, that's,
You know?
no.
Shoot first, ask.
He was.
His parents are doctors.
Oh,
Yeah, no, that's not how it
so
works.
they should have money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like there are like different channels on YouTube and such where people will talk about how people who were like born in Nigeria, Cameroon, wherever it is that they come from, saying how like police harass them and tell them, oh, you look like a drug dealer and all these things, right? So you're still gonna inherit that. Of course, their proximity to Africa is different than my
yours.
proximity, but yeah.
Listen, African people, they're not all smart. They don't know American history. Like they don't understand. They don't get it. They think that once you are in this country that you have made it, not understanding that there's a whole fucking Pandora box when you fucking come to America.
They don't know that.
They don't get it.
I would say, like, even I could say for people like in Haiti, you make it to America. Oh,
You made it. You big shot.
You made it. Big shot, Miami, New York. Okay. You made it, honey.
And it's like they don't understand.
And I mean, obviously Haiti is in a very like stressful time right now, and I understand that you are safer here, but what I'm agreeing with you is it's not just greener on the other side.
Yeah.
There's problems black plight comes in different flavors, and that's disgusting.
Just choose one, please.
That's yes.
Yeah. And so we see time and time like these non-black Americans coming in here standing with our enemies and not understanding that you think shit is sweet now until something happens to you and you understand that these people don't really give a fuck about you. They don't care about you. And I understood that from a really young age, that I understand that I'm in the land of like opportunities, but the opportunity is until where they feel comfortable for me to be at. It's like, you can make it until here. You can't surpass this.
I need you to be creative. Think in this box. Doesn't it look bigger than this box? Yeah.
Sure. I mean, and, there again, I always thinking about books. There are some good books on this subject. There was a book I had to read for one of my classes. I think it's called Africans in America. It was published in 2019 by an author named Nehemiah Blyden. All right. I would definitely suggest people look into that for people who want to learn more about the relationship between continental Africans and African Americans. And it's like a whole historical overview that starts in pre-colonial Africa, but it works its way to the 21st century, talking about Africans who migrated here willingly, quote unquote, in the late 19th century, the ties that they created with African American schools and communities and things of that sort, and also their experiences being in the United States and having to embrace a quote unquote African American identity. If anybody wanted to learn more about that. And you know, fun fact, Nehemiah Blyden is actually, I believe, the great granddaughter of Edward Wilmot Blyden, which I suggest a lot of people look into. Edward Wilmot Blyden is considered by a lot of scholars as the father of Pan-Africanism. I think he was born in St. Thomas. He tried to get an education here in the United States in 1850. Was rejected, and he turned his sights towards Liberia. He moved to Liberia and created a life for himself, and he wrote a lot of literature encouraging black people in the diaspora to go to Africa and build up Liberia in particular. And he also spoke very favorably of indigenous African cultures and religions and things of that sort, which was actually not very common amongst earlier Pan-Africanists. But just a little fun fact to throw out there.
Okay, before we wrap it up, how far are we going back? I want to answer from both of y'all.
How far are we going back?
How far are we going back?
Oh, okay. Dang, that's a good question. Hey, look, if they banking for our people and they got a great granddaddy.
Also, just be considerate when you're not black presenting.
Yeah.
You can be 50%, but just understand
when
that
you're not phenotypically.
Yeah, don't include yourself when a black woman is telling you about her plight, and you are biracial and you are very white passing, and you're like, yeah, we just always are getting so. We?
Yes,
no.
Me and you, my good
we are
sis.
not.
We are one. We as in me and you. We as in yes in French.
Yes.
So they have to be more selective in the experiences they can speak
so
to.
just be understanding of why there's certain limitations and restrictions for your counterparts.
No, people don't want to look in the mirror. People don't want to do that work.
Yeah.
People just want to be in whatever space that they can occupy for the time being and keep it pushing. People don't want to look within.
It's not one size fits all.
It is. Okay, Tat, wrap it up for us.
Oh, okay. I don't want to wrap it up. All right. So, wait, you usually like to do the little recap, so I'm going to let you do that.
Okay. Y'all, we took a little break, so bear with us. So basically, we talked about what racism is, and I really hope that you guys really opened your ears, clean out your ears, and listen to it. Black people cannot be racist. We don't have any type of power, and I've been telling y'all
That's
this since ninth. I've literally been telling y'all that since ninth grade. We cannot be racist. We could be hateful. We could even be bigots, right? We could be bigots.
Yeah,
Yes?
yeah, bigots, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
we could be.
Yeah.
I'll even give y'all that. Okay.
Prejudice.
But we cannot be racist, baby, and you need to understand that. And for the coons out there who love to ride our dick and be like, look at these black people talking about they can't be racist. I saw a black woman being racist today. They're being racist for that video.
What they do?
We can't be racist. But we can be hateful, and that's not a good thing. But that's you and your God. So if you want to be a bully, that's you and your God. I'm not going to be a bully, but, I'm going to mind my manners. And also be mindful of how you look and the space you are taking. If you know that you look phenotypically ambiguous, not even like necessarily black or white, but ambiguous, understand the power that you hold within being ambiguous and where you should put yourself in that. You're not taking anybody's place, because that's not a great feeling, saying that, I'm standing up for black women, and then you keep taking black women's role and you don't look like a black woman. Yes, your mother is black or your father is black, but you do not look like a black woman. So what kind of message is that sending? I don't know how you sleep at night, but just understand the space that you take. And everybody takes up space. So just understand the power that you have within the space you take. And just leave any comments. Follow Bishop. He always has a lot of great information.
And we'll put little book images.
No, we won't. We'll put them in the description bar. No, we will not. Leave that man alone.
We'll put book images, like
we're not doing that. We're gonna put them in the description.
I'll put a link in the description.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here,
sure.
Bishop. I was smiling the whole entire time, even though
this was good. I like this.
It was depressing a lot.
No, like I said, I think that I have a lot of optimism, revolutionary optimism. I think it's a phrase coined by Huey P. Newton. Okay. But revolutionary optimism, again, I think we have power, and the power comes in the numbers. It comes in our willingness to challenge the status quo, organize ourselves, and flip the system on its head, right? That's where the power comes from, the strength.
Okay.
Our ancestors, too. The wisdom that they bear, the scars that they bore for us, we have to harness that power, too.
Okay. It's on you, Tat.
That was a great interview, y'all. You can always hit the little circle right there. It's a replay. Yeah, just do that. All right, so thank you guys for tuning in again with us. I'm your girl, Typical Tat, a.k.a. Tatsua D.
I'm your girl, Yaya the Great One, a.k.a. Vasilisa G. I got it right? Oh, a lot of pressure.
And
Bishop, also known as BW.
Yes.
BW.
Right.
All right. Peace.
Peace.